YouTube talking to folks. Hey guys, what is up? I am doing a quick live because I want to do a Q&A where I answer questions that you have about the challenge that we are doing this week. The challenge we're doing this week. Let's see, I sound muffled. Let me put you up here then. The challenge this week, as you know, is the 5-day build your own app challenge. How many of you guys are in that challenge and doing that challenge? Give me a chat. Let me know in the chat if you are doing that challenge, the build your own app challenge. How's it going? How did day one go? Let me know in the chat how day one went. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, just to clarify, because some of you guys might be seeing this YouTube and you have no idea what I'm talking about. So let me clarify. This week, I'm doing a 5-day build your own app challenge. Every single day, there's a video, little mini lesson, and you follow along what I'm doing. And at the end of it, you have your own app. So I wanted today to be relatively I didn't want to throw you into the hard stuff on day one. Was it easy, hard, medium? Let me know. Give me feedback on it. How has it been on day one for those of you who have done it? Was it easy? Was it hard? Sharitha says, I just started 10 minutes ago. Okay, no worries. So we'll check back in with you once you're done with day one. Stephanie said it was excellent. You're an awesome teacher. Oh, good. I'm so glad. If you are not in the challenge and you want to get in, you can go to challenge.appswithoutcode.com, challenge.appswithoutcode.com. And you can get signed up right there if you're not already in and you don't have access to what I'm talking about. Cool. Okay. I wanted to just get on live and see what questions y'all had. Questions about the challenge, questions that you kind of came up with. They could be about your own app idea. They could be about the app that we're building together in this 5-day challenge. What questions came up? Type into the chat and let me know what things came up for you. I'm also looking on Instagram at folks here. Disney from far away says, what? I want to build my own app. Yeah, if you're not in the challenge, go to challenge.appswithoutcode.com. And Mr. Kim, is it too late to sign up? No. You can still get signed up. Wednesday is the last day for you to get signed up. And the reason for that is it's a 5-day challenge and everything expires, goes away on Sunday at midnight. So even if you start on Wednesday, you still have technically 5 days, but Wednesday I'm closing it because I don't want anybody to be like, I didn't have enough time. So Wednesday is the last day that you can get in for the challenge. So if you want to have a friend or somebody else do it with you, they can sign up. Wednesday is the last day that they can get started. Colt 40 says, this is news to me. I'm in. Yeah, I put it's a challenge.appswithoutcode.com is how you can get in. Okay. So I want to answer questions. If you didn't see the video for the first day, check your email. I sent you an email with the day one video. Okay. All right. So questions. Okay. So Natalie has a question. Natalie says, is the app going to be web-based that we're building or mobile-based? How do I, my phone's ringing. Sorry. How do I know what kind of app we're going to be building in this challenge? Great question. Okay. So with the time that we have in the 5-day challenge, we're going to build a mobile web app. So this is a really good question because you should know that there are a lot of different types of apps that you can build. We're going to build a mobile web app in this challenge that you can put in the App Store. We're not going to have time to actually publish it into the App Store. And also, if you build a Tinder replica app with the name Tinder in it, you wouldn't be able to publish it into the App Store too, because you're just using Tinder's name. So this is just for our own purposes. But if you wanted to build your own app the same exact way, you would totally be able to do that and put it into the App Store. So what we're going to build here, oh, you can't hear me. What we're going to build is, let's see, for some reason, folks on Instagram cannot hear me. I don't know why. Let's see if it comes back. I think it's because my phone rang. What was I saying? I totally forgot what I was saying. Okay, so we're going to build a web app that's proper for a phone. So let me give you an example of the different kinds of apps you might encounter so that you understand like what is a mobile web app? What does that even mean? Okay. So the first thing that you might have is a web app. A web app is something like, let's say you go to the computer. Hold on one second. I'm having trouble with folks on Instagram. They're saying that they can't hear me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get off live and then I'm going to come right back because I know y'all can't hear me. Okay. Be right back. Okay. Let me try with them one more time and then I'm going to answer all y'all's questions. Thank you for your patience. But half folks are watching on Instagram, half folks are on Instagram, so or on YouTube. Okay, let's try this again. So there's different kinds of apps that you're going to encounter. So the first kind is a web app. So let's say you go to facebook.com. You're on your computer and you go to facebook.com. It's still an app, right? You can still log in. It still saves information about you. It still like does all of this stuff, right? It's a web app. It's still the same app that you would get. It's information that you would get on your phone. It's just on the web. It's like spaced out properly for a computer, right? So that's a web app. That's the first kind. The second kind of app that you're going to encounter is a mobile web app. What is a mobile web app? Okay, so a mobile web app is like, let's say you go to your phone and you go to like the Internet Explorer or Safari or Chrome, whatever you use on your phone, and you type in facebook.com, right? It's actually going to change. It's actually going to change to m.facebook.com. And what it's doing is it's giving you the formatted version that's proper for a phone, right? So that's a mobile web app. You can still log in, you still have access to all the same information, but it's a mobile web app. Now, web apps and mobile web apps, you can access on any device. It doesn't matter if you have an Android, iPhone, doesn't matter. Anybody can access them. So in this challenge, the 5-day challenge that we're doing this week that anybody can join, it's totally free, the Build Your App Challenge. In this challenge, we're going to build a mobile web app. However, you can take that mobile web app and make it what we call a native app. So a native app is the kind of app that we typically think of where you download it in the app store. So the native app is downloadable in the app store. So you think about a mobile web app, a web app, and a native app. You can have all three. For example, Facebook has all three, right? But usually it is easier to launch with a web app. You don't have to pay rent to Apple or Google to hope to have your app in the app store. You don't have that extra fee and anybody can access it. So I usually tell people to launch with the mobile web app to start. But Natalie, that was a really good question. The question again was, are we going in this 5-day challenge? Are we going to be building a web app or a mobile based app, or how does that work? It's going to be a mobile web app, but you can take that mobile web app and actually put it into the app store once it's done. And there's no extra different work. There's no different work that you have to do to design the app. Make sense? Okay. Other questions. Natalie has another question, which is how big is a difference does it make for storage fees? And I see somebody else had a question. Whose question was that about fees? I think Tina had this question about like, should we expect there to be glide fees? How does this work? Okay. So if you are putting your app on a web-based or mobile web app or a native app, regardless of the type of app, your storage fees are going to be the same. So the storage fees are more about like how many users or how much data you have in the app. It's not based on where the app is on the internet or on the app store. However, Tina has a question, which is, hey, can you talk to me about the 8-week training program? So there's this 1-week build your own app challenge, but I also have the 8-week training program where we build your app. So Tina's question is sort of related. Tina's wondering, what should we expect in terms of glide fees? Are we going to be like paying additional, like how does that work? Great question. It's like a publishing fee. It's a really good question. So glide fee, you should expect that there's going to be, okay, let me say it like this. You can build your whole app on the free plan on Glide, right? You can even publish your app and have it out there in the world on the free plan. But here's the thing. When you're ready to publish your app, if you're on the free plan, Glide's like, listen, and Glide's the platform, just in case you guys don't know. Glide's the platform that we're using to build the app. So Glide's like, listen, if you're going to use my free plan, then I'm going to put my logo all over your app. So, in my opinion, it is much more professional looking if you, when you're ready to actually publish the app, if you pay Glide the $29 a month that it costs to have their premium service so that you can have it all custom branded and it's all like your logo, not their logo, all that. To me, it looks more professional. Now, you could choose to say, hey, I'm going to do a budget version of this. I'm going to launch it on the free plan. You still will get a lot of the features. You won't be missing much, actually. The main thing that you're going to be missing is that professionalism. Does that make sense? So there's a $29 a month fee that is not included in my 8-week training program because that fee doesn't go to me. It goes to the platform for building the app. So during the challenge, though, we will not have any Glide fees. But once you're in the 8-week training program towards the end, that's when you're probably going to want to pay for that subscription. Does that make sense? Cool. Okay. Other questions. Okay, so let's see. And by the way, I'm taking questions that came up from the challenge, or they could be questions about your own app idea, launching an app, how to come up with an app idea. So please type your questions into the chat. I want to make sure I get everybody's questions from the challenge. And if you're not in the challenge, you can go join. It's challenge.appswithoutcode.com to do the 5-day build your own app challenge. Okay. Elle has a question. So with using email on Glide, if one goes out, it seems that it doesn't recognize one's email when trying to log in and not sign up, and there's no password. Okay, I think I understand your question. I just want to make sure. So Elle says that if you are logging in to the app, are you talking about logging into Glide or logging into the app? Can you clarify that for me, Elle, actually? Are you talking about logging into the Glide editor, like when you're signing up? If for some reason doesn't sign up, then there's no password. Yeah, if you use a software and it has that option where it's like sign in with your Gmail. Yeah, okay, Elle, you're talking about Glide. Okay. So if it's asking you to sign in with your Gmail, there's no password because what you're doing is you're using your Gmail password as the password for Glide. You're essentially connecting it. So you're authorizing Gmail to like log you in. You can do it that way, but there's no password if you do it that way. So if you're trying to get back in, you need to log in with Google or with Gmail again and consistently. If you sign up with Google, you continue to log in with Google. Does that answer your question, Elle? I wish I could show you. Tomorrow I'm going to do better at this. YouTube doesn't let me share my screen with y'all, so I'm going to switch something up for next time we do a live for Q&A so I can show you my screen because I know that's helpful. But what you're saying is you signed up for Glide with your Gmail account and now you're trying to sign back in, I think, but there's no password. It's telling you there's no password. You just need to sign in with Gmail again. Log back in with Gmail consistently. Good question. Okay. Elle has another question. If you use your email for an app, do you need a password? Do you need a password too so not anyone can edit a profile? No, if you're authorizing your Google, other people don't have your Gmail password, so no, you're just fine with that. Carrie has a question. If I attach Google Sheets to the app, are the column drop-down menu items available? Yes. Okay, yes, they are. So I think what you're referring to, Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, is in the day 1 video for the challenge. Wait, no. I'm skipping this because we actually are going to do this in day 2. So in day 2, oh, wait, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about in the database. I wish I could share my screen. In the database section, there's the columns and like you can choose what type of column it is. Is that what you're talking about, Carrie? Or are you talking about inside the app, you want there to be a drop-down menu for users to drop down? Or are you talking about in the database where when you're setting up the database like we did in day 1, you can say like this is an email column or this is an image column. Is that what you're talking about? Yes. Okay, got it. So yes, you can do that. So after you load your Google Sheet, you can then change what type of column it is. Now, I recommend that for this challenge, you build along the same way that I'm building. So we didn't use a Google sheet to pull in other data, but in the future, yes, you could still do that if you connect a Google sheet. That's a great question. Um, Sharifa has a question about the 5-day challenge. And the question really is about white labeling your app. So this is a good question. And I didn't see, Sharifa, what you were referring to. I think you're talking about I was talking about the 3 different types of apps. There's a web app, a mobile web app, and a native app. And I think you were asking if you're white labeling, are there still those 3 types of apps? I think that was the question. So yes, so let's talk about that. So let me catch everybody up on what you're talking about first. Anybody, you guys know what white labeling is? Sharitha was asking this question about white labeling. Are you guys familiar with that concept of what white labeling? Let me know in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. If not, I can do like a quick overview of what white labeling means so that my answer makes sense. Okay, I was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, I see some no's and some yeses in here. Let me just catch everybody up on this. Is honestly like my favorite strategy, and I think one of the biggest secrets to making real money with your app idea. So this is important for us to talk about. Now, in the 5-day challenge, we're not doing a white labeling strategy, but for your app idea, you might want to do a white labeling strategy. So that's why I want to talk to you about this. And then I'm going to answer Shreeta's question, which is, do you need to upgrade to a better plan if you're white labeling? So what is white labeling? White labeling is where you ask yourself, what kinds of companies or organizations would want to have their own version of my app? What kinds of companies or organizations would want to have their own version of my app? So, for example, let's say that you have an idea for an app that helps homeless folks, right? You could charge homeless folks access to the app, but they probably are not going to be able to give you that much money, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense as a business model, right? But then you might ask yourself, well, wait a minute, what kinds of companies or organizations would want to have their access or have their own version of an app that helps homeless folks find resources? And you think about it and you're like, okay, well, what about like nonprofits or homeless shelters? Their whole job is to help people get placed into resources and different things for homeless folks. So what you would do is you would make a copy of your app and you would take your logo off of the app and put the nonprofit or the homeless shelter, their logo onto the app. And you would charge them money to have their own version of the app, right? Another example, let's say you had an idea for a gardening app, and the app helps people know when to water their plants and when to add fertilizer and all sorts of stuff like that, right? Well, you could charge the average customer. But the problem is that they're probably not going to pay you that much for that. 99 cents, maybe $5 max, right? So the question is, what kinds of companies or organizations would want to have their own version of a gardening app? And you think about it and you're like, okay, well, what about like stores like Home Depot or nurseries that have like plants, and they have like all those like fancy stores that sell like plants, right? So you can sell to them. You make a copy of your app, you take your logo off, you put their logo on, and then you charge them to have their own version of the app. Now, when you white label, this is the key. So listen to this part. When you white label, your pricing should not go below $3,000 a year. $3,000 a year, or if you want to split that up monthly, that's about $250 a month. Now, why in the world would someone pay $250 a month or $3,000 a year for an app? Well, think about their alternative. Do you guys know how much it costs to hire someone to build an app for you? Do you all know? Anyone asked someone or like got a consultation and they told you how much it would cost to build your app idea? Has anyone, let me know in the chat if you have done that and they told you for your app how much it would be. Jewel says they told me 30K. Yeah, that's common. Anyone else like talked to someone before and they told you how much it would cost? Aloha Summer says 23K. Yeah. Lisa says 20K, and Natalie says they said 50 to 150K. That's on the high end. Yeah. Sharitha says 20K. Yeah, it's like 20K and up is how much it costs, right? It's if usually it's not common that you'll see it under 20K. At least it's like too much. Yeah, I feel you. 45K. Yeah. So what's their alternative? Their alternative is to spend $20,000 and up hiring someone to build an app for them. So your $3,000 a year is like an easy steal. In fact, you can go up from there, right? So I wanted to talk to you about white labeling because that's where you find a company or organization that wants their own version of the app. Take your logo off, put their logo on, and you can do this for an unlimited number of customers. You can have 1,000 customers that you white label with, that you just collect contracts with. Now, to go back to the question, Sharitha says, do you have to upgrade to the more premium plan if you're white labeling? Yeah, definitely if you're white labeling. If you're charging the company to have their own branding on it, you better be able to not have Glide's janky branding on it, right? If you're going to charge them $3,000, listen, you could take that $3,000, carve out your, $29 a month, or if it's $250 a month, take 29, and that's your cost to Glide, and you pocket the rest. That's still fair. That's still a good profit margin. Okay, so if you're white labeling, yes, you want to upgrade to a better plan. Excuse me. Okay. Yeah, Jules, like the white labeling strategy can seal the deal with your apps. Absolutely. Okay. Raksha has a question. If you create the app on the free version of Glide and you publish it, can you still get a professional looking app if you pay $29 and then you customize your original app? Yeah. You absolutely get a professional looking app. You'll get a professional looking app whether you pay for Glide or use the free version of Glide. It's just going to have, if you use the free version until you pay, it'll have Glide's like branding on it, right? But it'll still be a professional looking app. And then I think Trina's clarifying, if you sign up for Glide with an email that's not Gmail, the next time you log in, it doesn't ask for a password. Oh, you get sent an email to log in. You know what? Let me talk to you guys about this because I noticed that a lot of new app builders get caught off guard by this general concept. And not only does Glide do it when you're in the editor, by the way, Glide's the name of the software that we're using in this free Build Your Own App Challenge. If you're not in the Build Your Own App Challenge, you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go to challenge.appswithoutcode.com to get signed up. It's a free 5-day class where every single day I'm doing a little mini lesson and you build along and build an app with me. So I want to talk about what we call magic password or magic link logins. So this is a new trend in tech. There's a new trend. And the reason it is a new trend is because so much has happened in the world in terms of email security. Like there's so many companies and organizations that are getting like accidentally sharing people's passwords, really. And so password security is becoming much more of an issue for people. So in that world, what many companies are doing is they're doing a magic link login. And what that is you type in your email, you click the button to sign in, and then it will send you an email to your email address with a special link. And when you click that special link, you enter the app. The reason that they do that is because there's no password. It is a passwordless system. It's like, listen, we know that there's all kinds of cybersecurity issues. We're just gonna forget the password. And that is like the really big direction that you're seeing a lot of apps move in. In fact, when you build your app in Glide, that is going to be one of the options for how you do your settings. If you're in the challenge, we haven't gotten there yet. But that is one of the options to do a passwordless. And actually they lean more on passwordless than having password options because that's the direction that many apps are going in. So you'll get access to that functionality. Okay, great question and comment. Okay, let's see. Anybody on Instagram? No, let's see here. Marky has a question on Instagram about what platform you recommend. So for the 5-day build your own app challenge, we're using one of my favorite platforms, and it's called Glide. So if you go to challenge.appswithoutcode.com, you'll be able to sign up for the challenge, and you can see the videos where I'm step by step showing you how to build an app with Glide. Cool. Okay, Aloha Summer has a question on Instagram too. Can you send that passwordless link to a text instead of email? So I believe that Glide mainly does it with email. I'm sure they'll consider adding text, but email is the main way that you see it now for security. Yeah. The reason text gets a little tricky is because if you have users in different countries, they have different country codes, there's different texting rates. It's usually free for their system to send an email. Texting SMS has a cost to it. We're usually not used to that in the US. Like texting is like part of most of our phone plans now, so we don't even think about it. But texting becomes more expensive and costly when you've got people in different countries. So yeah. And the website for the challenge is challenge.appswithoutcode.com. Okay. Sharon has a question. Sharon says, I need help coming up with an app idea. Can you help me come up with an app idea? Yes, absolutely. So I have a system that I call the Smart Idea Formula. And the Smart Idea Formula is a series of questions. That's all it is, a series of questions to ask yourself that lead you to an app idea that you're already qualified to build. So here's how it works. The first thing that you want to think about is, what do you do for work, or what do you do for a hobby? Right. So what do you do for work? What do you do for a hobby? That's the first thing that you want to think about, because what you do for work and what you do for a hobby, you already are an expert in. And even if you're not like the world's biggest expert, you know more than me or probably a bunch of other people in this chat about what you do for work or what you do as your hobby. So let's say I have an entrepreneur in my program. He has a hobby and he likes to play basketball, right? Or you do something for work and you teach music lessons, right? Or you're a teacher and you teach elementary school, right? Teach math, right? Whatever it is, right? And then the second question you ask yourself is, what is something that's hard or time consuming about what I do for work or about my hobby, right? All of us have a part of our job that we're just like, ugh, I got to do this part again. It's like, this part's hard, this part's time consuming, right? All of us have that element of it, right? And then the third question that you ask yourself is, if you were to build an app to alleviate some of that stress, what is something like, what could the app do? And there are really like 7 core things that apps commonly do. I'm going to tell you this. If you want to take a pen and paper and write this down, this may be helpful. And also on day 3 of the challenge, we're going to go through this in more detail of how to come up with an app idea. But the first thing that apps commonly do is they recommend things. Like the Tinder app that we're building, it's going to recommend people to you based on what you're looking for, right? So one common thing that apps do is they recommend things. Another thing that an app often will do is give you a directory of resources that you can search through and filter through to give you a directory, right? Another thing that apps commonly do is they let you buy and sell things from each other. So think like let me go back actually. For a recommendation style app, that was the first one. Think like Tinder, right? It's recommending things. For a directory style app, number 2, think more like Yelp, right? Yelp is a common directory app. The third type of app often will let people buy and sell things from each other. Think like OfferUp or eBay or Airbnb or even like GoFundMe, right? Where you're sharing, either you're donating money or you're buying things from each other. So buy and sell is another common thing that apps do. So think like Airbnb. Another thing that apps common do is they let you book a service and then track the progress of that service. Think like Uber, right? So Uber lets you book a service and then track the progress of that service, right? So that's number 4. Number 5 common type of app that you might encounter is let's see, what did I miss and not say here? Uh, oh, like a social app. So think like yeah, a marketplace. Yeah, the buy and sells like a marketplace. So the fifth type of app is like a social app, right? Where people have profiles and they can follow each other, and there's like a whole social environment. Think like Facebook, right? Or even Instagram, right? So a social network app. Yeah, exactly. Instagram. Yes. What am I missing here? Um, oh yeah, another type of app that you might encounter. Thank you, Sharitha. Is like the main thing the app does is teach people something, like an education app, exactly like Masterclass. And I'm blanking. How many is that? One, two, three, four, five, six. I'm missing one. I blanked on the last common type of app. I'll remember it. But those are typically the types of apps that you see, right? Those are typically the types of apps that you see. And so, oh, wait, I remember one. Now, yes, Natalie, thank you for tracking something. Yes, thank you. That's the seventh type, tracking. So think like Fitbit, right? Where you're tracking your progress or process. That's exactly right. So are there other types of apps? Yes. But like those are the common things that an app does, right? And so you want to think about, what do you do for work or your hobby? What's one thing that's hard or time consuming about that hobby? And if you were to create an app to alleviate some of the manual work of that, like what could it do? Could it recommend things? Could it give people a directory? Could it help people buy and sell things from each other? Could it give people a social environment to share resources or connect with each other? Could it be they book a service and track the progress of that service? Will they learn something, lessons, tutorials, assignments, or could they track something? Like those are the common things to be thinking about. Does that make sense? That's a introductory framework to get your wheels turning on types of like ideas that you could have that you already know something about, right? It's not ideal for you to launch something and you don't even know anything about the industry, right? Or about the kind of app or the needs that the customers will have. You ideally want to build something that you know something about, a little something, because then you can move a lot faster. Okay. Leah has a really good question. I know I skipped people. I'm gonna come back. Leah says, "What legal rights will Glide or any other, like if we use other app building softwares, like what legal rights do they have to your idea and your intellectual property? Like, how does that work? Please walk me through that because I don't want to build my app and build it on one of these platforms that you can build without code, or have you build it for me without code, and I put myself into some legal issues because of it." Great question. So this is how it works. It works like this. Imagine that you're an author and you go to Microsoft Word to write your book, right? Microsoft does not own any of your book. They don't get any royalties. They don't own any of the rights to the story that you wrote, nothing. You just happen to use their tool to write your book, right? And maybe you paid for your Microsoft license or you used a free version. Either way, they don't own any rights to your book. It works the same exact way. If you use Glide or any other app building tool that I recommend to you guys, they do not own any piece of your idea, your intellectual property, etc. So that's a really good question, but I just wanted to clarify that. And then Rodney has another question, which is, do if we're thinking about white labeling, do we need to build a big user base before we pitch our app to those customers? Like, do we need to have a lot of customers? It's a really good question, Rodney. No, that's the beauty of white labeling. So again, just to recap, white labeling is where you ask yourself what kinds of companies or organizations want to have their own version of your app, and you make a copy of your app, you take your logo off, you put their logo on, right? And they get to have their own version of the app. And you say, you know what? No problem. You take credit for the app if you want to, as long as you write me that big old check. And you can do that for an unlimited number of customers, right? So Rodney's question about, well, let's say that I have a gardening app, like the example I gave earlier, and I want to, let me give you a different version. Let me give you like a more enterprise version. Let me say, let's say you have an app that helps manufacturing plants organize their process, and you want to go sell it to manufacturing plants, or you have a gardening app and you want to sell it to like Home Depots or nurseries, maybe even better. The question is, do you need to have a bunch of users, a bunch of gardeners already? And the answer is no. The whole point about white labeling is you say, listen, I'm making the app for you. You go get your own customers. Put your own people in here. That's the nice thing about white labeling. You're going to give them the shell. You're essentially like a productized app developer. Like instead of them going to um, hire someone to build it custom for you, you already have it built. So they just get to rent it from you. They're renting it from you. But no, you don't have to have any user base. They bring their user base and put it in when you white label. When you don't white label, then you've got to bring all the customers. But if you white label, they bring their own customers to the app, is usually what's common. Great question. Great question. Okay, let's see here. And usually there was a question about like examples of white labeled apps. Usually the white label apps aren't the sexy businesses. And this is true about business, period. Like forget apps. The ones that are making the large money for enterprise and B2B contracts, they're not in TechCrunch. They're not like all over the news. It's the cool new Uber, Tinder. It's not that. They're not. The consumer businesses are harder to do and you make less money at first, but they're sexy. Everybody thinks they're cool. Enterprise businesses where you sell to other businesses, not as sexy, but it's much easier to make money up front. It's usually how that goes. Okay, great questions, y'all. And by the way, if you're just joining, let me just catch everybody up. I am doing a 5-day build your own app challenge. You can sign up for that challenge. It's totally free at challenge.appswithoutcode.com. So what I'm doing is every day there is a video. This is not the video. I will send you a video once you sign up, or you probably already got it if you guys are in the challenge, where I'm walking through step by step my steps for building an app. You follow along and click by click. By the end of the challenge, you have built your own app. Right? And you can ask other people. For those people who are doing the challenge, can you give me some feedback in the chat on like how the challenge has been going for you this far? Also for other people to see like if it's something they want to do. Has it been fun? Has it been hard? Is it cool? Were you surprised by how easy it was? Were you surprised by how hard it was? Would love to hear your feedback as I answer questions. Okay, let's see here. Other questions. Raksha has a question. If you white label the app, who maintains the app or makes changes to the app? Or like if you want to edit it, who does that? Great question. Okay, good. If you white label the app, you can think of yourself as like you own an apartment building and they're renting from you. You are still responsible for the maintenance. However, you collect that check every month. that's what that's how it works, right? And there's a question, if we join the challenge today, will we get the any of the videos that we missed? Yeah, you only missed, today's the first day, so you haven't missed too much. You can still catch up. Yes, you will get all of the previous stuff, so you can catch right up. There's plenty of time to catch up. There's plenty of time. Okay. But yeah, when you white label the app, you are responsible for making any updates or changes in exchange for getting that recurring check, right? Yeah. All right. Damon says, I have a great app idea. I just tuned into your channel. I've tried a different platform than what you're talking about. It's called Bubble. I'll try Glide. Yeah. Damon, I recommend you do the challenge with us. It's challenge.appswithoutcode.com, and you'll be able to get a sense of what I personally think is currently the best combination of features that you can get and ease of use. Like Glide has a combination of the both. Are there some platforms that can do way more than Glide? Yes, absolutely. Do they have a big old learning curve? Yes. Are there some platforms that are way easier than Glide? Yes. Can you do less with them in terms of functionality in your app? Yes. So I like Glide because it's like in the middle. All right. Um, other questions. Stephanie says the challenge thus far has been easy and informative. Oh, good. I'm so glad. So glad. Um, oh, and then someone says, can your app have, you were talking about like the 7 different types of apps that are common. Can it have more than, can it do more than one of those things? Yes, it absolutely can do more than one of those things. Yes. Yeah. First day was pretty easy. Great. Yes, good. Good. I don't want to like make it too hard on the first day. We'll get a little bit fancier as we go. Um, okay, Jay has a question. So I set up a user profile page on my site, and for some reason, the words come out differently from what I initially typed. Now, Jay, I want to ask you a clarifying question. What do you mean by the words come out differently? Is it like the name of the profile, like the person's profile? Like it's supposed to say JA and it says something else, like what words come out differently? I think if you clarify that, that'll help. Um To your knowledge, have you ever heard or seen of apps made to lower the rates of social issues? Yeah, absolutely. I work with folks all the time who are thinking about social justice issues. They're thinking about like public affairs and things that they want to make more equitable and fair. Actually, I would say that's a good 20% of the folks that I work with are working on something like that. So, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. They often have a lot of success white labeling to nonprofits and foundations because there are many organizations like that who get these big, huge chunks of like millions of dollars of grants. And they're like, all right, go do something good with this. But the challenge is that if you do something only local with the money that you get, and you don't have massive reach through technology, it's hard to really scale. So they're able to go in and say, hey, you should use our app, give us some of that grant money, pay us for this app. You'll be able to scale your initiatives a lot more, or sometimes even they'll go to government agencies to do this. You'll be able to scale your initiative a lot better, and you'll be able to go back and prove why you're the one who should receive this funding again. Right. You should get this funding again because look at all the cool stuff you did with this. And you have this app and all this cool stuff that you did with the money. Right. Yeah. If we, let's see, will you be repeating the 5-day challenge or is this the only opportunity? I do this 5-day challenge once a year. Once a year. So folks have been asking me to do this for a while. I usually do it earlier in the year, but I didn't get to it until now. So no, I won't. Now, it doesn't take too much time. So maybe you need like 20 to 30 minutes a day. And if you're not able to do it every day, you can like binge it all on the weekend. You can do it on one day this week. So you can space out your time however you want. If you white label the app, Athletic Key says, if you white label the app, can you add advertising to it? Who would benefit? Yeah, that's a good question. In general, no. If technically you could, but think about this. Think about it like this. Let's say that you're a company and you are going to white label someone's app. So you're going to get your own branding, your own logo. You're paying. What are you paying for? You're paying for your advertisement to be on there. And then the app developer comes and says, actually, I know you paid for your branding to be on this, but I'm going to put a bunch of other people's brand on here too. You'd be like, no, wait a minute. I paid for my branding to be on there. That's why I paid you that big old check. Right. So in general, if you're white labeling, you're not putting advertising in. Those are usually mutually exclusive business models. Now, can you negotiate it as part of the deal? Yeah, anything's negotiable. You can say, hey, you give me $3,000 for the app and I'll put advertising in it, or $4,000 with no advertising. I don't know. You can make up pricing. People make up pricing all the time. So you could totally do that. Right. Cool. Okay. Awesome. Other questions. Let's see. Okay, so JA is clarifying. So when you set up the information that you want to have on the page for each user. Okay, so what you said, you created a column. Did you create a column in the database? If you create a column, make sure go back to that part of the video where we're creating columns in the database. If you want something on the page for each user, you have to have a column in the database to save that information. I bet that that's where you have an issue. So if you don't have the column set up properly, that's probably where you're having a problem. So go back to the video and revisit that. I think that'll help a little bit. Okay. Rodney says, can we white label our app to multiple companies, possibly even competing companies? Yeah, absolutely. You can have an unlimited number of customers that white label your app. That's totally fine. You know where this is really common? This is really common in, I don't know if you guys have seen this. It happens a lot with, what do you call it? Not fashion, gyms, like people who are like personal trainers who have their own app. There's like one company, and I actually can't think of the name of the company, which is indicative of the white labeling strategy. With white labeling, no one knows your name, but you get the big check because your logo is not on it, right? So if you're okay with your ego not being slathered all over it, you get the money, right? So a lot of personal trainers now, they have the same app company that they use, and they pay to have their own logo on it. So each of the trainers and companies has their own logo on it, but it is white labeled. Right, that's a common one. A lot of companies use this. Salesforce, for example, has a lot of white labeled offerings. A lot of the software you use for work is white labeled. Cool. Ego pays no bills. You know, sometimes it does, but if you're going to go B2B, it doesn't. All right. Let's see here. Other questions. Let's see here. Sharith is responding about the social issues. And your app is along that road. What recommendations outside of Facebook and LinkedIn do you suggest? It depends on who your customer is. So we might have to dig into that more. It depends on who you're targeting. Can Glide help build a tracker for scheduling and pay tracking? Yes, absolutely. So in my 8-week training program, I actually have, what I've done is I've created, remember I told you those 7 types of apps earlier today? So in the training program, what I've done is I've created different templates that you can use and just make a copy of based on each of those types of apps. So I said one of them is tracking something. So you could scheduling, paid tracking, all of that you can do, and you can start with a template that I've created. Right. Oh, school districts is easy. There's like a whole swath of, now we're not looking for school districts. Remember that you're always selling to a person. Even if your customer is a business or an organization, you're always selling to a person. So my question, Sharita, is what is the job title of the person who makes decisions or is going to make a decision on something like this? Because you can find those customers on LinkedIn easy peasy. Yeah. Georgette says, oh, this is a good question. Do you build the app first and set up the business structure, or do you set up the business structure and build the app, or does it matter? All right, let me preface my answer. I am not a lawyer. I am not going to give you lawyery advice. I'm going to give you entrepreneur advice. Okay. So a lawyer's probably going to tell you the opposite thing. The lawyer's going to be like, no, you have to formally establish the business first. And you're like, well, what if I don't even know if the business is going to work? And they're like, no, you should establish a business first. That's not what I do. When I have a new idea for a business, I get money in the bank first, customers first. As soon as I have my first paying customer, then I'll go establish the business. That's the way that I do it. Because I don't even know like how it's gonna work, or maybe even like I need to change like how the business is gonna work, and that might even change the name of the business. Like I don't know enough yet, so I don't want to spend a bunch of time or even the small amount of fee to establish the business. First, I want to go make sure that the business idea works first, right? And so that's what Bootcamp, my 8-week training program, whether I build the app for you or I teach you how to build the app, that's what we're focused on, is validating the app idea, right? Is a lawyer going to tell you to do it in the other order? Yes. So don't be like, Tara lied. It's not like a yes or no answer. That's how I do it, though. And many entrepreneurs do it. Okay. Other question. If your app has multiple features like recommendations, reviews, bookings, do your clients have to pay for their own domain name like Calendly? No, not if you don't want them to. No. You can set it up however you want. Right. Oh, I see. You want them to like uh okay. If you want to use like yourapp.com / and then you put whatever their business name is after that, which is common, that I would recommend you make free. I do recommend that you charge people if they want their own domain, meaning they want that's white labeling, right? White labeling is where you put your own domain on it, right? That's a great example of white labeling where you get to have your own domain. So I recommend you charge for that. I do. People find that valuable to have their own branding and their own, own branding on it. So I do recommend you charge for that. You don't have to, but I recommend you do. Okay. Hopefully I didn't miss any questions. Shrita says your customers are superintendents. How do you find those customers? Oh my gosh, LinkedIn all day. There's going to be like hundreds of thousands of them right there. Like that's your money right there. You don't even need any other marketing direction strategy. All of your customers are right there. Super easy. What do you mean charge extra for that? Well, if you are white, so okay, I want to go back to the conversation about white labeling, right? So, if you're giving someone their own version of their app, you should charge for it. Right. You get to choose how much to charge. So like people think that like entrepreneurship, there's like a calculation for how much you charge. You charge what people are willing to pay. That's your price, what people are willing to pay. Right. So you totally can change this up. Now, if your customer already has a website, which they probably do, and you're gonna give them an app, usually what people do is if you're gonna white label it, for example, what's common is if you do what's an example of a business? YouTube. So the website is youtube.com, but the app is app.youtube.com. That's usually a common structure. So what you would do is once you're publishing it, you would send them an email and say, hey, the app's done. It's ready to be published. Can you send me, and you'll see instructions on this, but like when you change a domain, there's some like codes that they have to send you so that it can be on their domain. Can you send me your domain codes? I'll paste them into my app builder so that it can be on your domain. You could do that if you're white labeling, but you should be charging for that white labeled app. If someone wants all those bells and whistles, I recommend you charge, is what I'm saying. Okay. Natalie has a question. What is the time commitment needed for the 8-week class aside from the 8 weeks? Great. 30 minutes a day, an hour a day. How does that work? Okay. So yes, you can break your time up so that you do a certain amount every day. If you break it up, it's about an hour a day is how much you need to spend on your business in general. However, it doesn't matter if you do that every day or if you just like do Saturdays your work day or however you want to do that. So with the 8-week class, you're going to pick one day a week that's going to be your day for class. And on that day for class, it's 2 hours class. The classes are on the evenings or on the weekend. You get to choose when you want your class. But there's no classes that are during the day because most of y'all have stuff going on in lives, right? So the classes are an evening and weekend if you're in the US or in that hemisphere. So that's how that works. And expect like an hour a day. There is one day a week where you'll have class for 2 hours. But the average, like 7 hours a week is my point. Right? You could do it with less, but to really be successful and get everything done in that time frame, that's what I recommend. Carmietta says, if I build a Zillow type app, how do I get the information for the data input? Ooh, good question. All right. So, what I recommend you do is 2 things. I'm gonna give you two versions of this answer, and you can choose which direction to take. Number one, you can do what's called web scraping. If the information is public somewhere on the internet, you can scrape it and pull it and put it into your app. However, I don't recommend that you do that necessarily, because what you want to at least additionally set up is the ability for your users to sort of crowdsource the data. How did a good example of this is like Yelp. Yelp didn't go and like scrape all the businesses. Users can say, "Hey, look, my favorite coffee shop is not on the app," and they can just add it, right? So you want to have the ability for people to add things and do it that way. Now, if you want to start with something, yes, you can go scrape the information from the internet and put it into your database spreadsheet format. Um, but you also want to, as a more sustainable method, allow people to add to your app. Now, if you want to approve it first, you can do all that. But that's what I recommend you do. Cool. Make sense? Yay. Cool. Okay, what other questions do we have? Let me scroll through. Mhm. Apex has a question. Can we talk about the success rate of the 8-week program? How does this work? Okay, great. So the promise of the bootcamp is that you're going to build the first version of your app. Let me clarify what I mean by first version, because sometimes people get confused by this. I assume that you will not only have one version of your app. Apps don't work that way, where you like build it and you never make an edit to it ever again. Have you ever seen Facebook post an update, or like updates on your phone, for example, where it's like, hey, there's an update of the app? If Facebook is still making updates to their app, you will likely every now and then want to make an update to your app. So when I say first version, I mean the first version that we're going to launch. It doesn't have to be like 1,000% perfect. It can have the basic features that your customers need, and then you can iterate on it as you go, right? So we're going to launch that first version of the app that has the most important features that customers need. That's the promise of Bootcamp. Now, 80% of the students that go through Bootcamp get their app to that point. There are some people who decide, hey, I don't want to build an app. I changed my mind. I actually want to do a different kind of business. So there are people who do decide that. There are also people who just don't come to class and do the homework, right? But we have, I think it's like a 79% rate of students that finish their app. Cool. Natalie has a question. Can an app have a web scraping and personal input aspect? Yes, absolutely. It can have a both. Right? You can have both. Yeah. I don't think that you need to regularly be web scraping. I recommend that you like do an initial web scrape, and then from there people can add or change. Do you have a giveaway or sell templates for how to do contracts with clients? Yeah. So in my 8-week training program, I give you my template for what I do with contracts with clients. So you can just make some changes to that and edit it. Yeah. So if you're just joining, let me just like catch you up. I am doing a Q&A, and we're actually going to be wrapping up sort of soon, but I'm doing a Q&A for my 5-day build your own app challenge. If you're not in the challenge, you can still join. There's still plenty of time to catch up. The way it works is every day I'm doing a little mini lesson. I'm going to send you a video. You click and follow along the video, and by the end of the week, you will have built your first app. In addition to that, for those of you who, the challenge is to build a sample app, a replica of a famous app, right? For this challenge, we're building Tinder, right? Because Tinder has like profiles and matching and messaging. It just has a lot of components that you're going to want to learn how to build, right? And if for some, but this challenge is to build a replica. Many of you guys are not going to just want to build a replica. You're going to want to build your own app idea after this. And so in addition to doing the challenge, there's an opportunity once you're inside the challenge to schedule time to talk on the phone with my team or myself about your app idea, because I have an 8-week training program that you can do. And there's 2 options there. The full package is where I build the app for you and I teach you how to build the app. The second option is just where I teach you. I don't build it for you. I just teach you. And either one of those options you can do. But I think it makes sense for you to first at least do some of the 5-day challenge. Cool. Um, Other questions. Oh, and you can get to the challenge if you're not already in it at challenge.appswithoutcode.com. Challenge.appswithoutcode.com. Cool. Okay. How do I determine which format is best for my idea? I think for that, if you're in the challenge, it probably makes sense for us to talk that through specifically on the phone for your specific app idea. So when you're looking at the day one video that I emailed you, if you look at the bottom of the video, there's a link where you can apply for a phone call with me and my team. And that's probably something we can like work in through in detail, which format makes sense. There's another question. Have there been any issues with someone that you white label to trying to white label the app as their own? If so, is there a way to make sure it doesn't happen? No, 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 no. They're paying me so that they can take credit. And I'm like, you know what? My ego can chill. My ego's fine because you write me a big old check. You can take as much credit as you want to. Take the credit. It's your app. I truly want you to say it's your app. I want you to say that to everybody. Go scream it out. As long as you keep writing me that check every month or every year, please tell everybody that that is your app. I want you to. That's what you're paying for. So people get to say, hey, look at our cool app. And it's got their branding on it. That's the cool thing about white labeling. And the other part about white labeling is that it's not your logo on it, right? Other questions. What's web scraping? It's where you pull information from the internet to put into your app. So let's say I wanted to show a bunch of restaurants in my app. I could pull information from Yelp and show them in my app. That's what web scraping is. You scrape that website for the information. Yeah. There's no way for that's a good point, Natalie. There's no way for them to like see the code or keep the code. And remember, it's like this. I'll give you another example. It's like, let's say that you buy an apartment building, right? And you're like, well, how can I prevent people from saying that the house is theirs? No, no, no. Nothing in that lease that they signed says that they own the house. The lease explicitly says you are renting. Nobody's confused that like you own it. That's not what the contract said. The contract said you're renting. You pay monthly for your rent. If you want, you could pay the full year in advance. You could do that if you want to. Maybe we'll give you a discount, but you're renting it. You don't own it. And if you start acting up, I can kick you out. It's the same thing for your app, right? So in your contract with them, it's clear you own the app. They're renting it from you. I have a template that you can use in the 8-week program. I have a template you can use for this, but it's clear that they're renting. Makes sense? And they don't have access to your code. You're not going to give them the login to the app builder. That's not what we're doing here. Okay. What if you don't have access to a desktop computer and you work strictly from an Android? You mean like, can you do the challenge with Android? So technically, yes, you can. Or a tablet might be easier if you have access to a tablet. In general, I personally find it's much easier to build an app from a computer. Even if it's a mobile app, you just have more space on the computer. But you technically can do it from your phone. So yes, yes. Okay, a couple more questions, and then we're gonna wrap up, and I'm gonna be back for more. I think I'll be back either tomorrow or Wednesday for more Q&A for questions that pop up. But Tamula says, I own a trucking company and I wanted to build an app that collects and sorts the nearby addresses and makes stops more efficient and accurate. How do you think I can go about building that? Woo! I think that that's a killer business, not just for your trucking company, but for other trucking companies too. You can use it for your own trucking company, but I bet you can make a crap ton of money with other trucking companies who have that same problem. In fact, that's my favorite kind of business. I don't know if you guys know this about me. Like, I love non-sexy businesses. Like, nobody is like, oh, I can't wait to download the trucking company app. No, the trucking companies care about the trucking company app, but that's where the money is, right? Where it's not a sexy thing, but people really need it for their business. I love this. So how can you go about building it? Are you in the 5-day challenge? Because I think that's going to show you a lot of the components of what you need. But the way that the app might work is you sort of have like a dispatcher system, almost think kind of like an Uber like system, an Uber, but like with multiple stops, and it'll rank in order the dispatch can rank in order the addresses in the order that you should go to, and it can even show them on a map inside of the app. There's a bunch of things that you can do, but I think that that's a great idea, and there's a lot for you to do there. Are you saying that if I'm doing a directory app, I can web scrape? How would I do that? Yeah, you can. I don't recommend that the core of your app be web scraping, because what do you do when you web scrape? If you're web scraping, you're saying, "Hey everyone, I am solely responsible for putting all the information into this app." Now, if you want that responsibility, fine. But Yelp didn't take that responsibility. You know what Yelp said? Yelp was like, "Y'all do it. Y'all add stuff, right? We're not going to be responsible for doing all of this, right?" So, you can web scrape. You can go to get the information from other places, but I highly recommend that the main way that people add things to your app is that your community, the users, add stuff. Sweet Lady says, would a fashion app be sexy? Okay, let me explain what I mean by sexy app. I really mean a sexy app is like a consumer app that everybody uses. A non-sexy app is like an app for businesses to use, where it's not going to be like all over the news. It's not going to be that, but it's going to be practical, and you're going to make a lot of money from it. That's what I call non-sexy apps. So could a fashion app design app be sexy? It could be sexy, or it could not. A sexy way to do it would be to like for everybody to use to plan their outfit. Right. A non-sexy way is if you market it to fashion designers, or you market it to retailers, or you market it to companies or organizations for their business use. That's sort of what I mean by that. Tamala says, I missed your answer. Okay, let me go back, because I was just ranting and raving about how smart of an app idea I think you have for your trucking company. And what I was suggesting is that instead of just using it for your company, I think that there's a whole crap ton of money for you to make in offering this to other trucking companies. So it's a relatively straightforward app, and I'm actually happy to talk to you for my team to build it for you. And this goes for any of you guys. If you want me to build the app for you, we would start with a phone call to talk through what you need in detail. However, you can do it a bunch of different ways, but you can have this sort of like dispatch, almost think like Uber, but with multiple locations and stops. So you can have an ordered list of the addresses and what order to go to the address. And also you can show it on a map and chart it on a map. For example, there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it. You could have people type in and say, like, put the checkbox once they've actually gone to that stop, or whatever it is that you need to do. But there's all kinds of things that you can do there. And I think there's a lot of money too in you white labeling this to other trucking companies. So happy to talk to you about this. The easiest way to do that is if you sign up for the challenge. Underneath the day one link for the challenge, there's a link to apply for a call. Cool. Okay. Last few questions. What code are you referring to? Yeah, Natalie answered this correctly. I was talking about code. We are using no code app building tools. However, in the background, it's just creating the code for you. So you're dragging and dropping, and the computer is like, and it's writing code in the background. You don't see it, but there's still code involved. All the stuff that normally happens in creating an app is happening in the background. We just now have tools that allow us to do it without code. Yeah, cool. All right. How does one get their app available for sale in the app stores? Once you've finished building it in Glide, for example, you can push it and publish it to the app store. You're going to need what's called a developer account, to do that. And in bootcamp, once you're in the 8-week training program, I'll show you in detail how to do that. But you need a developer account. with either Apple or Android to push it to their app store because they own the app stores. You also, if you want it in the app store, do have to pay them essentially rent to be in their app store. I recommend that you launch your app without the app store to start, get customers going, and then make that decision so that you can avoid the extra costs and fees and extra stuff. All right. I'm going to pause here. If you have more questions or questions I didn't answer, please hold on to them. I'm going to come back. I need to see either tomorrow or Wednesday. I need to check the schedule for more questions. And I will be sending you, for those who are in the challenge, I will be sending you, you already have day one. I'll be sending you day 2 in the morning tomorrow for you to get started. If you've not yet done day 1, don't stress about it. You can still do it. If you've not yet applied for your call, you can still do it. All of that. Cool. If you are, if you have questions that are urgent, you can shoot me an email. Just reply to my last email, or you can email me at support@appswithoutcode.com. Cool. Okay. I will see y'all. I will send you the video for day 2 of the challenge. If you're not in the challenge, it's challenge.appswithoutcode.com. And I will see y'all for day 2 tomorrow morning. Cool. The call is free for us to talk through your app idea. There's no cost for the call. Cool. All right. I will talk to y'all later. Have a good one.